Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ivy English. I'm Bruce.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Today it is March 26th. Funny, it's the day after March 25th, which was the day we started to talk about the history of clothing and fabric. This is part 2. We have 4 types of fabrics, and we're going to give you a lot of detail about each one.
好，所以我们今天呢是讲昨天那一篇文章的第二部分啊。那我们的文章的标题是步步惊心，古今衣料大搜查。
The fabrics in our everyday lives can be roughly divided into 4 categories. Okay, I'll read these 4 types of fabrics, and we have labeled them on this page, page 76 in your March issue, with little squares with A, B, C, D. A is synthetic. E.g. means for example, nylon, polyester, and spandex. Synthetic fabrics are materials that are manufactured in factories using combinations of different chemicals. They are more durable and long-lasting than natural fibers. However, they are often less porous and can bother the skin, especially if worn for too long. Also, they are not biodegradable and are a source of microplastic pollution. B. Semi-synthetic, for example, rayon, modal, and sea-cell. Semi-synthetic fabrics are manufactured textiles that are made from natural raw materials. They are only partially degraded by chemical processes. The earliest semi-synthetic was rayon. Created from wood pulp, it was designed to mimic silk and is sometimes referred to as artificial silk. Other fabrics in this category include modal, which comes from beech trees, and sea-cell, from seaweed. C, part C, plant-based, for example, cotton and linen. Plant-based fabrics are made using natural fibers. 2 of the most common plant-based fabrics are cotton and linen, which are made from the cotton plant, and flax plant, respectively. These textiles are extremely breathable, but wear down over time. Clothing made with plant-based fabric may shrink, stretch out, or fade. And finally, D, animal-based, for example, wools, fur, and leather. Animal-based fabrics are made using natural fibers. These include various wools, including cashmere and angora, and silk. Animal-based textiles also include fur and leather. While these fabrics can be very expensive, they can also be very long-lasting. However, most are plagued by ethical issues. Silk often involves boiling the silkworms, while the practice of mulesing, cutting away the skin around a sheep's anus, is sometimes practiced on wool farms.
Okay, so the fabrics in our everyday lives can be roughly divided into 4 categories. If you roughly divide something into something, it means you're not making a very precise definition, but you're just sort of making general categories. And then it's for more specific or nitpicky types to decide which is which.
好，这个 nitpicking 哈，这个 NIT 啊一个 hyphen PICKING 哈。那这个其实有点像我们中文讲的吹毛求疵哈，所以大家可以把这个字学起来。那这句话的意思就是说，这个 the fabrics in our everyday lives， 我们日常生活里面的这些纺织物呢，好，可以 be roughly 大概的，好，可以 be divided into 被分成4个种类，好 ，4 categories， 这个类别就是 categories。
Okay, and the first of these, A, is synthetic. E.g., these are from 2 Latin words, ex generis, meaning out of the general, so it means specific. Nylon, polyester, and spandex. Those are not the only synthetics, but they are three very common ones, and we could say important ones. Synthetic fabrics are materials that are manufactured in factories using combinations of different chemicals. So, in short, we can say synthetic is man-made. They do not occur naturally.
好，所以 synthetic 其实就合成的意思啊，那在这里指的就是合成纤维。好，那 e.g 就是例如啊，例如什么呢？尼龙啊，或者是聚酯纤维啊，或者是氨纶 spandex。好，那接下来他告诉你说，这个合成纤维呢是 materials that are manufactured。好 ，manufacture 现在常常是指大量制造什么东西，哈 ，to make something on a large scale， 哈 ，usually using machinery， 大概是机器大量制造的意思。所以这是机器大量制造的一种材料啊。那在哪里制造呢 ？In factories， 在工厂里面制造。Using 使用的是什么呢 ？Combinations of 就是组合、结合啊，各种不同的组合。组合什么呢？组合 different chemicals， 组合不同的化学品。所以这个化学物质它做不同的组合，它就可以这个做出不同的各种的合成纤维。
They are more durable and long-lasting than natural fibers. Durable means it can handle wear, it can handle being rubbed at, and long-lasting means it lasts a long time.
好 ，durable 就是耐用或者耐磨哈 ，hard wearing 啊，那个 hard 一个 hyphen 啊 ，W-E-A-R-I-N-G hard wearing 哈，或者你可以说是 able to withstand wear， 它能够withstand 啊，能够承受磨。那 long lasting 就是持久哈 ，last 是持续的意思。好，所以合成纤维呢，比 natural fibers 比天然纤维还要更耐用、更持久。
However, we found out about the good points of synthetics, durable and long-lasting. However, now we're going to look at the disadvantages. They are often less porous because they are man-made. It's almost like a very thin wall between your skin and the air. They also tend to be waterproof so that when you sweat, the sweat cannot leave your skin. It's going to be caught by this synthetic material, and that can bother the skin. In fact, it can give you skin problems, skin diseases, especially if worn for too long. If you were to wear, say, spandex for 18 hours, and your skin is rather sensitive, you could develop a rash, some skin problem because of this. Porous materials, we say, allow your skin to breathe naturally, but not with synthetics.
OK， 好，那这些天然合成纤维的缺点是什么呢 ？However, they are often， 它们常常是 less， 比较没有。好，这个 porous 就是透水或者透气哈，这个字原来的意思是能够渗透的意思。那在这里就指它比较不是那么透水，不是那么透气。好，因为 pore 哈 P-O-R-E 这个本来是毛孔或者气孔的意思，所以可以想象就是它没有什么毛孔，没有什么气孔，所以它比较不能透水，也不能透气。好，那因为这样子呢，所以它可以 bother 就是 disturb 或者 upset 好，或者是 make uncomfortable， 它可以让皮肤不舒服啊。那尤其是 if worn 就是 if they are worn 的意思 ，they are 省略了 ，if they are worn for too long， 他们如果穿太久的话，这个衣料会让你皮肤不舒服。
And also, they are not biodegradable. That means they don't naturally break down in the weather, and so therefore are a source of microplastic pollution. Microplastics are little tiny pieces of plastic that infect our waterways and make it very hard for animals to go about their normal business of living.
好，所以 also they are not， 他们不是 biodegradable， 就是可以被生物分解的，所以他们没有办法被生物分解。好，所以呢，他们是 a source of， 他们是什么的一个来源呢？是一个塑胶微粒污染的来源。好 ，microplastic 就是塑胶微粒，好 ，pollution 就是污染，所以他们对生态是不好的。
Okay, our second category, this B, is semi-synthetic. Not synthetic entirely, but partially synthetic. You might also consider almost synthetic. not completely. For example, rayon, modal, and C-cell. Semi-synthetic fabrics are manufactured textiles, just like synthetics, that are made from natural raw materials. Aha! There is the difference between materials or fabrics made of different chemicals and those that are made from natural raw materials, but they're partially raw or they're partially synthetic.
好，所以这个 B 部分我们要谈的是半合成的纤维。好，那个 semi 常常就是指半的意思，还没有完全。那例如有什么呢？ Rayon 就是雷银。好，所以雷银这一种材料，或者是这个modal 就是莫代尔，我们按音来翻译啊，或者是 C-cell 就是海藻纤维。所以这个半合成纤维呢是制造啊，他们是大量制造 manufactured 这个 textiles 一种大量制造或者制造的这个人工制造的一种织品 that are made from 他们有什么做出来的呢？有天然的 raw materials 就天然的原料所做出来的啊一种这个人工的半织品。
They are only partially degraded or broken down by chemical processes. Although they do need to be broken down, for instance, because rayon is made from wood, and wood isn't very flexible, you might have noticed.
所以他们是只不过是 partially 部分的 degraded 分解啊，他们可以由这个化学的一些程序啊，化学的一些过程来分解啊，也就是说，他们只有部分受到化学作用的分解。
The earliest semi-synthetic was rayon. So this is one of the semi-synthetics, and it was the first one made.
好，所以呢，这个最早的这种半合成纤维呢，其实就是个罗银，好，所以它是最早的出现的一种半合成纤维。
Yeah, and that was way back in 1890-something, which is kind of incredible, because you think about all these being 20th century inventions, but it was just before the 20th century. Anyways, it was created from wood pulp, or any kind of industrial sort of fiber that no one really wanted anymore, like agricultural byproducts.
Oh.
And it's interesting. So it was designed to mimic silk. Actually, there's only one kind that is fine enough to mimic silk, but so because of that, it's sometimes referred to as artificial silk. But most of it is more like a cotton fiber, actually. Yeah, so rayon is a very interesting material that's been around for over 100 years.
OK， 好，所以这个Rayon 其实是19世纪的时候发明的，好，所以这个接下来讲说它是 created from， 它是从什么做出来的？从木造的木的这个纸浆，好 ，pulp 就是纸浆，好，那 it was designed to 它的设计本来是要干嘛呢？要 mimic silk 啊 ，mimic 就是 imitate 啊。常常 mimic 它是 imitate in order to entertain 或者是 ridicule 啊，所以你可以 mimic someone's voice 啊，但在这里没有那个意思，在这里只是说 mimic， 它是希望照这个跟这个丝绸感觉起来要蛮像的这种感觉啊，因为丝绸太贵了啊，所以它本来是这样子的设计。然后 it's sometimes referred to as 有的时候呢，别人会称它为人造丝哈 artificial。这个 silk， 不过刚刚 Angela 讲，它大概只有少数的几种 rayon 就可以被称为人造丝，大部分感觉起来其实是像这个棉一样。
Other fabrics in this category, we are in the semi-synthetic category, include modal, which comes from beech trees, so it comes from wood like rayon originally, and C-cell, which comes from seaweed.
好，那其他的这一类 in this category 这一个类别里面，其他的这个纤维呢，包括这个莫代尔，那它是从什么呢？从榉木的树来的，或者是海藻纤维 C-cell， 它是从这个海藻来的。
And here we are at category C, plant-based, e.g. cotton and linen. Some of the oldest fabrics that we've used on this planet. So plant-based fabrics are made using natural fibers. And by natural fibers, we mean that the fibers themselves are naturally occurring. They don't have to be degraded or changed in some way to become a fiber. They are just how they are.
好，所以我们要接下来谈的是植物性的纤维，例如棉还有亚麻布。 所以植物性的纤维呢 are made， 它们是被制造，用什么制造呢 ？Using 用的是天然纤维，它们是天然纤维做出来的。
Two of the most common plant-based fabrics are cotton and linen. We've mentioned these before, and I'm sure you've heard them before, which are made from the cotton plant, surprise, and flax plant. Maybe you didn't know that linen comes from a plant that we call flax. Now, respectively means, notice we have cotton and linen, and then after that we have the cotton plant and flax plant. So we have two things and then another two things. The first of the first two matches the first of the second two. Therefore, the second of the first two matches the second of the second two. Then we say respectively. For example, London and Paris are the capitals of England and France, respectively.
OK， 所以 respectively 就是分别依序的哈，照我们刚刚讲的那个顺序的哈，所以是 separately and individually， 而且是 in the order already mentioned。所以刚刚这个 Bruce 老师讲说，这个伦敦跟巴黎是英国和法国的首都，好，那 respectively 就是按照这个顺序，我们先讲伦敦，所以呢，伦敦是第二对的英国的这个首都，然后巴黎是法国的首都啊。那我们看到这个句子呢，他一开始他说 two of the most common plant-based fabrics， 最常见的两种这个植物性纤维呢，就是这个棉啊，还有亚麻啊 ，which 就是指这些东西呢，这两样东西呢是由什么做成的呢？棉是由这个棉花的这个植物哈 cotton plant 做成的，那亚麻呢是从这个 flax plant 就是亚麻的植物做成的，然后后面加一个 respectively 就是告诉你他们刚刚的顺序是这样子。
So these textiles are extremely breathable. They will let moisture from the body out. They will let air through, but they do wear down over time. They do wear out, which is one of the reasons why people started inventing artificial fabrics.
Yeah, breathable 就是在这里就透气的意思啊，它 admitting air to the skin 啊 ，and allowing sweat to evaporate 啊，所以呢，就是它让空气能够那个碰到你的皮肤，然后让你的这个流的汗呢能够蒸发出来，叫 breathable 好像它会呼吸一样。所以这些布料呢是 extremely， 它们是极度的透气哈，植物纤维非常的好，极度透气。但是呢 wear down 它们会磨损 over time， 随着使用的时间久了，它们会被磨损。
Clothing made with plant-based fabric may shrink, stretch out, or fade. Now, this is part of that wear down over time. Specifically, if you wash cotton and the water's too hot, the fibers will contract. They will become smaller, so your piece of fabric will shrink. Or, the opposite, they can be stretched, and if you stretch them too far, they will not resume their original shape. Or fade. The colors will not hold very well. When colors are added, when they are dyed, D-Y-E, when they are dyed, the natural fibers won't hold the colors forever, unlike with synthetic materials.
好，所以呢，这 clothing 衣服 made with plant-based fabric 由植物纤维所做的衣服呢 may 有可能会 shrink 就是缩水。Stretch 就是变形啊，尤其是松掉了、松垮掉了，或者是 fade 就是褪色。
Now we have the category D, which is animal-based. And these are including wools, fur, and leather. Animal-based fabrics are made using natural fibers that come from animals.
好，所以 animal-based 就是动物性的纤维啊，例如什么呢？这个动物毛 wools 啊，或加了一个 s 表示不同种类的动物的毛啊。那 fur 皮毛，还有 leather 是皮革啊。所以这种动物性纤维呢 are made， 他们是制造，怎么样制造呢？使用的是一样，是用 natural fibers 天然的纤维，不过是从动物身上来的天然纤维。
These animal-based fabrics include various wools. That means wool from different animals, including cashmere and angora. Those are from mammals. and silk, which comes from, as you probably know, the silkworm, since it was first developed here in China.
所以这些也就是说动物性纤维呢，包括什么呢？ various 不同的 wools 就是动物的毛哈，那通常是指羊毛了，不过这里他就很清楚的告诉你，这动物毛还包括什么呢 ？including 这个cashmere 就是克什米尔的羊毛啊，那个 Angora 是这个安哥拉兔毛啊，那还有呢 silk 是蚕丝啊，所以这里面有3种不同的动物。
Animal-based textiles also include fur and leather.
好，那这个动物性的纤维呢，也包含了毛皮啊，还有皮革。
While these fabrics can be very expensive, they can also be very long-lasting. I've had a leather jacket that I had made in Bali, 30 years ago, and I can still wear it, no problem at all. It doesn't tear.
Unlike vegan leather, which falls apart like 3 months later.
Yeah, they're long-last. They last a long time.
好，所以呢，这个动物性的纤维呢，它们 while 是虽然的，虽然它们可以是非常的贵啊，因为的动物的纤维，所以这动物的皮毛它会很贵，但是它们也可以是非常的 long lasting， 就耐久。好像刚刚这个 Bruce 说，他有一件这个皮革的衣服，大概30年前到现在呢，还是好好的，还是一样状态非常的好，所以动物皮革可以非常耐久。
However, most of these animal-based fabrics are plagued by ethical issues. If you're plagued by something, it means that you continuously have problems. And in this case, the problems are ethical issues, which is whether or not you're causing the animals to suffer.
好，所以但是呢，大多数 most 就是在这里指大多数动物性纤维呢 are plagued by 就是为什么所苦啊，为什么所困。好，这个 plague 这个字呢，当动词的时候，就是持续的让造成一些问题，让着谁很苦恼哈 ，cause continual trouble 或者是 distresses。好，那他们为什么问题所苦呢？为 ethical issues， 就是道德的议题啊，因为他们主要就是有人会认为说，你这样的为了取他们的皮毛，你让动物受苦。
Now here are those issues with those animals. Silk often involves boiling the silkworms. So you put them into boiling water. That can't feel good. While the practice of mulesing, cutting away the skin, not the wool, the skin around a sheep's anus must be extremely painful. And that is sometimes practiced on wool farms where people raise sheep in order to cut their natural fiber, their fur, which we call wool.
So let me just I quick Googled what mulesing is. So apparently merino sheep, which have a particularly nice kind of wool, are very wrinkly, like a Shar-Pei puppy. And sheep that are wrinkly, they can easily get a thing called blowfly that goes into their skin and causes them enormous amounts of pain and suffering, and then they die. So it's bad for the sheep and it's bad for the owner. So what particularly happens is when the sheep poos, the fur around the anus gets full of shit and then becomes full of fly eggs, which then creates this blowfly problem, which then tunnels into the skin.
Oh.
So to avoid this very painful condition, they also inflict pain. So they cut down these wrinkled skin around the anus in order to cause scar tissue so that the animal will not get a blowfly infection. So either way,
the scar tissue is smooth.
Yeah, I mean, but I was just reading. This is the easiest and fastest way to manage large groups of sheep. So if you're doing wool at scale, you need to do it. But it's really whether or not this is a thing that you have to do is under question.
OK， 所以 silk 就是这个丝绸呢，常常 involves， 它常常会牵涉到你要煮这个蚕，好活的，它感觉起来是活的蚕，你要下去煮，好，或者是另外有 practice 就是做法，好，这个 mulesing 就是这个割皮防蝇法啊，基本上就是它这种这个绵羊啊，他们为了要取羊毛的这个绵羊啊，它的这个肛门的地方呢，因为那个皮肤有很多皱褶啊，所以常常会有那个一种蝇啊，它会跑到那个地方去产卵啊等等的，就产生问题。那 因为这里呢，肛门它跟排泄有关系，所以反正这个地方就容易出问题啊。所以有一种办法就是把它肛门附近有皱褶的这些皮啊，羊的肛门附近有皱褶的皮把它割掉，那这样就可以防蝇。那这个当然是对于防蝇来讲是最好的，但是其实对这个羊来讲呢是非常痛苦的。好，那这个 musing 这个字呢，这个他其实是发明这个方法的人的名字哈，他叫 Mules 哈，他的姓啊 Mules 哈，所以加了一个 ing 变成这种方法。那这个东西呢，这种做法呢，它有的时候呢会在这个羊毛的这个农场上面呢会做这样的事情 practiced 哈，会有这样的做法。那这个很多人说这是很不人道的。
Okay, we've finished the second of our 2-day lesson on fibers and fabrics. Now let's look at the questions here.On page 77, number 1, which of the following was not mentioned in the article?
好，本文没有提到底下哪一样东西呢？
The answer is D, the cost of various textiles throughout history.
好，本文没有提到史上各种织品的价格。
Number 2, Joey got some socks last winter. They breathe well, but have worn down and become less stretchy after being frequently washed.Which category in the day 2 passage might these socks fall into?
好，所以乔伊去年冬天买了一些新袜子啊，很透气，但是他频繁的清洗之后呢，已经磨损了，而且弹性变差。这些袜子有可能是属于第二篇文章里面讲的哪一种类型呢？
The answer is C. The linen or cotton. They breathe well, but they wear out and they get less stretchy over time.
好，答案是 C， 它们应该是属于植物性纤维。
3.Sandra is looking for a silky fabric for a new dress. Her ideal choice would be a more natural and animal-free material. Which category in the day 2 passage would best suit her needs?
好，山卓拉她正在找一块柔滑的布啊，希望做一个新洋装。那理想中的选择是比较天然而且不涉及动物的布料。那所以第二篇文章里面哪一个类型最符合她的需求呢
？And the answer is B. In the semi-synthetics, probably she wants Rayon.
答案是 B 哈，因为它这个我们谈到 Rayon， 它是一种人造丝哈，或者是仿丝的一种人造的这个纤维。那它有柔滑、有天然，也有不涉及动物的需求，所以应该是这一个答案 B。And
number 4, please quote a sentence from day 1 to explain the purposes of the earliest clothes in history, and then decide which categories in day 2 they should belong to.
请从第一篇文章里面引述一句话来解释一下史上最早的衣服用途，而且判断一下它应该属于第二篇文章中的哪几种类型。
So our sentence in question from day 1 would be,These items would have been worn for protection from the elements and not for style. And then the 2 categories from day 2 that they belong to would obviously only be the natural materials in C and D because we didn't have any of these synthetic materials at that time in history.
好，所以我们第一篇文章要引述的那个话就是这些东西呢应该是穿来是为了要保护啊，不要受天气的这个侵袭，那不是为了好看。然后呢，这个它应该属于第二篇文章里面的 C 跟 D 这两类。
Okay, that's it for today's and yesterday's lessons both. Till the next time.
Bye-bye.